Charly, let's start here. What did you think of the Trump mugshot, and can you believe this is the real world that we live in?
The answer to your question, the first part, I thought it was a great mugshot. I thought he had great intensity in his eyes. I think that it's going to make for some fantastic merch. I plan to be dripping in head to toe with Trump mugshot merch. I knew all along that this was going to be like a huge moneymaker for him. And it's actually great because the more money he can make from all this merchandise from his mugshot will be good to cover a lot of his legal fees, which we know he's going to have to pay up. A lot of money along the way. So there's that. But the fact that he actually had a mugshot is just ridiculous. I mean, everyone knows who Trump is. They know what he looks like. He's not going anywhere. This was just a way for, it's an attempt to embarrass him. It's an assassination on his character. But I think we all realize that by making this move, the Democrats have only done him a favor. And I think his polling numbers are going to continue to surge even more, and his popularity is going to go through the roof. And I think it's interesting. I saw a meme earlier, and it was like two guys in the same Superman type suit trying to fight each other, and one was Democrats, the other was conservatives. They're both wearing the same thing, so it's like everyone's going to be donning the Trump mugshot, but for their own reasons. They'll be different. But at the end of the day, Trump's face is going to be absolutely everywhere. So I don't know. I actually think that it's going to end up helping him.
Okay, the debate was on Wednesday night. You and I talked about Nikki Haley's answer on abortion.
Yeah.
You are a young woman. You talk, I bet, tons as a New Yorker to other young women. What percentage of young female voters do you think focus on abortion almost to the exclusion of anything else? And what did you think of Nikki Haley's answer in the debate?
Yeah, I think Nikki Haley's answer was phenomenal. I think she really got to the root of what it means to focus on a candidate and their stance on abortion, because in my experience, a lot of the women that I talk to, especially I live in New York City, so very liberal city. People are so focused on the abortion issue. And it's interesting because one of the first things I ask them, I'm like, oh, have you gotten an abortion? Are you planning to get an abortion? No. Okay, well, why is this the main issue that you care about? And I think for a lot of people, it's more of a principled thing. I think that they should care about it. So this is where they've put all of their focus. And I think people don't realize that just because you're voting for a Republican doesn't mean that they are anti-abortion in a lot of cases. I mean, there are the examples of rape, incest, detrimental health to the mother, the child, that an abortion is still seen as acceptable, even though they are pro-life. And I think a lot of these Democrats that people don't realize when they're voting for, it's not just allowing abortion in the first trimester or because of these extreme circumstances. They're sometimes allowing these abortions to be carried out at full term. And I think that a lot of people would totally disagree with, but they don't realize it because in their minds, they think, oh, Republican, anti-abortion, Democrat, pro-abortion. And just because they're a woman, they think that they should have that right to choose what they do with their bodies. And I just think people misunderstand the issue. And I think if people took a few minutes to really dig a little deeper and see where the stances on abortion differed, they would probably vote very differently.
You mentioned that you live in New York City. You are starting to see many different places out there, including Rutgers, other colleges, that are making the decision to bring back masks. What do you think in 2023 when you see a man wearing a mask?
Oh, you know what I think. It was funny. I was just in Whole Foods the other day. I was going up the escalator and there was a guy coming down the escalator and he was clearly checking me out, but he was wearing a mask and I just felt disgusted. I'm like, ew, you are the anti-man, especially the type of man that I would ever want to be seen with. So no, I am repulsed. I am very turned off by men. And honestly, I mean, not that I'm into women, but if a woman in a mask is not somebody that I would personally ever choose to be friends with, because I'm not walking down the street with you if you're wearing a mask. I mean, even it's insane. Outside right now, just people on bikes are wearing masks. It's
I love, by the way, this idea.
doing.
So you're in Whole Foods and you're on an escalator and a guy checks you out and you were just thoroughly disgusted, not because a guy was checking you out, but because the guy checking you out was wearing a mask. You were like, this is just a non-starter.
Yeah. This is, listen, check me out all you want, but your chance of ever being with me are at a 0% because you're wearing that stupid mask. And I can't get behind it, and it drives me insane. I mean, even when we were in the height of COVID, there's just like this, it's like a little mini fury that bubbles up inside of you when you see people with masks on, and you just want to be like, what are you doing? And especially like I just said, the people outside. Hey, Zora, my dog, she doesn't like masks. She gets upset when I talk about masks.
What's your dog's name, by the way?
It's Zora.
Oh, that's a great name. So also you did a video recently that I loved for Outkick. And by the way, we're talking to Charly, Arnolt, and her dog Zora is in the background listening to us right now. When you did a hit saying, I love toxic masculinity, which the idea of toxic masculinity in general is patently absurd because I haven't heard anybody talk about toxic femininity, right? But explain what you think as a woman when you hear this idea of toxic masculinity.
So I feel like toxic masculinity is actually the opposite, because the things that are deemed toxic now in terms of men are actually the things that make men men, and the things that I think should be celebrated. Like I think that the idea of traditional gender roles still really resonates with me. Like, I understand that I'm capable of doing so much more. And do I think that I should be forced to stay home and, work in the kitchen and do all the laundry and clean up the house exclusively? No, but I do believe that, a man should be able to be a man. And I embrace those aspects of a man. Like, I like when, for example, I love when a man goes to the gym. I like when he's strong. I like when he's sweaty. I like when he feels compelled to speak his mind, even if, it's something that I don't want to hear. I like, when on the same token, I like when a guy does all the things that, are chivalrous. Like, I want a guy to open the door for me. I don't want him to, let me do certain things, even though some women are like, oh, I can do it myself. Lifting my suitcase up on the plane. I'm all for a man being like, I'm doing this. I'm the man. There's just so many things that I think women, and also, the idea of just like taking control. I like that. I don't need to be in control. I'm very much an alpha female, but I like when a guy is able to take the reins, take the lead. I don't see that as putting me down or being dismissive in any way. So I'm all for toxic masculinity. I want men to continue being men so that women, at least women like me, can continue being women.
It's interesting, by the way, none of this stuff is particularly crazy. There is a difference biologically between men and women, and that existed for basically all of humanity until like 5 years ago. And one of the things that you and I are fired up about, and we've talked about it a bunch on this program, is the idea that a man could decide to identify as a woman and win a women's championship. And we're going to talk with Riley Gaines on the Outkick special that's going to be on Fox News on Sunday. But a big part of that, I think, for making the decision to move Sage Steele at ESPN, who you used to work at ESPN as well. Yeah. What does it say about where we are as a society that an actual sports company, many people don't feel comfortable saying, hey, men who identify as women shouldn't be women's champions? How do we get here?
Well, I think we got here because people are afraid to say anything. It's not that they do not feel that that's how things are and how things should be. I just think that people are afraid of being labeled transphobic or hateful or bigoted, because that's what happens. I mean, even when I started speaking up about it, as much as many people would come to me quietly and say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for saying this. There was all the other people that publicly would say, oh, I cannot believe you'd say this. I thought that you were an ally. I thought that you supported LGBTQ rights. And my response to them is, listen, the term ally I think is lame. I'm not going to I don't want to I guess exacerbate these liberal terms, but I have no problem with people in the LGBTQ community. I think everybody should have the same rights as everybody else does, same opportunities, but that doesn't mean that you can infringe on a woman's space in order to exercise what you now consider to be your right. So I don't know. It's the same, same old playbook page from that the left always uses. They try to come at you immediately with, oh, you're hateful, you're transphobic, and then you suddenly get scared to speak up, and then that forces you to not, really take a hard stance, which is what you're doing, what I'm doing, what Riley's doing. But I think most people would agree that this is just a common sense issue. This isn't a political issue. It's very much common sense. And I'm hopeful that sooner or later it'll get to the point where, we had the Sam Ponders and Sage Steeles at ESPN. Now it's Sam Ponder alone on an island. But hopefully, eventually, there'll be more people speaking up to keep women's sports.
Amen. Charly, I will see you on Sunday. I hope people will enjoy watching us. 10 o'clock Eastern on Fox News.
It's going to be a great show.
I hope so. I think it's going to go well. 10 o'clock Eastern on Fox News. Charly Arnolt, thank you for joining us. Appreciate all the good work at Outkick.
Thank you.